Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mike's Plus One Plus One, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffing.com, Alter Sleeves, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I'm Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my co-hosts, MTG Nerd Girl.
Hey guys, welcome back.
And Ruben Wrestler.
How's it going?
And now to introduce our guest for this week, Miss Nerd Girl, take it away.
All right. Well, this week we have Joe Johnson is the mastermind behind Magic's most popular internet video content. Tabletop Jux is one of the fastest growing YouTube channels in the game. His TikTok, Black NATO, is one of the biggest in Magic, And on top of all of that, he's an actor with credits like Criminal Minds, Baskets, and Orville. Sorry if I said that wrong.
Yeah.
Please welcome Joe Johnson.
Yeah. Hello, Joe. Very nice. So Joe, welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I guess one of the things to start off of, I'm just curious, and I was listening and reading through some material, but I'd not actually come across how you got your username. Where did Black Nito come from?
Well, funny you ask. You take Magneto and you take my black ass, and then you put. Oh wait, can I cuss?
Generally, we're PG-13, so yeah,
it's fine.
Oh, all right. So yeah, you take my black ass and you put them together, and then Black Nito. Right. So that is how I came up with it. Magneto is by far my favorite. I would say favorite. I'll call him a hero because Magneto was right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If y'all aren't following the whole arc of X-Men, Professor X was a dick.
Mm-hmm.
He was not good in the end. And everybody's like, see, told you. Even Cyclops was like, well, I should have just known. So yeah, I mess with Magneto all day, every day.
I will say with the sweater, I thought that one was a little obvious, but Evan, I think
asking the question is good for the audio listeners too.
That's true.
You're right.
It's fair.
I like to tease Evan.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, it's cool because from what I was listening to, you kind of got back into Magic around the OG Ravnica, and I came back into Magic around Dark Steel, so I kind of got back in right around then, which was great. But I'm curious, now that we have such a lens, and now that we've literally had Planeswalkers in the game longer than the game has been in existence or whatever, how do you feel looking back on the game as it was sort of back then? And then how do you feel like it comes to, shows up now, essentially?
Well, that's when I first got introduced to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy because I don't know if you've heard the story, but this guy, I was talking to my buddy, he was introducing me to Magic because it was a long summer. And he introduced me to Magic and World of Warcraft, which I was like, I'm not dating anyone at the time, so I'm going to invest in all this stuff. So I got to figure out Magic, and I was, talking about it with a couple buddies of mine, a couple coworkers at the time, and some random dude come up and he was like, hey, I heard you guys were talking about Magic. I got a bunch of cards. I gave away everything. Do you want my cards? I'm like, where's my fairy godmother? What is this? What in the heck is this? And he was just like, yeah, dude, you can have them. I was like, I'll pay you for them. He's like, no. As long as he literally gave me a stipulation. He's like, as long as you keep playing the game, keep my cards. If you ever decide to get out of it, then you can do the same for someone else. Needless to say, I haven't stopped. So if he's out there listening somewhere, but he had like 5 or 6 4K boxes of stuff.
Wow.
And he was just like, here. And so me and my buddy Jay Stedman, he taught me how to play. And I was like, yo, you taught me how to play. Let's split this down the middle. And he's like, sure. And so we didn't even really think about what was in the boxes. But everything was categorized. He had stuff all the way back to I think 3rd edition. And so it was there was OG lightning bolts in there and fetch lands and Caracas and all these other crazy things that I had no idea how much was it was worth. Until I started playing Commander. And people were like, this is the pool that you pull from? What? I was like, yeah, this is just, random stuff, right? They're like, this card's $40. This card's $100. This card's, I was like, oh, they're like, yeah, sleeve, all this stuff. So that's kind of how I got started playing. I'd say from when I started playing, because I did take a big break. I took almost an 8 or 9 year break and came back. And that's when I got into Commander. So I had these boxes just sitting on them, and I came back into it. So I hadn't really, to answer your question, I hadn't really like followed the scope of Magic. I kind of saw sets coming out. I was interested, but I was doing other stuff. And when I finally dove back into it, it was almost like a reignition of that initial feeling when I started playing long before. And I was like, oh man, these are so cool. Let me look up everything that I missed and all the stuff that's going on now. So it was kind of just like a crash course for me. It was like, all right, let me hit the cliff notes. What are all the good cards? Okay, cool. So yeah, I didn't really miss anything. It was more just like, I kind of just accepted it all at the same time. So it didn't feel, it should have felt overwhelming, but it didn't, because I was having fun. I was building new decks. I was building like 2 decks a day. I'm still building decks. Their decks, they'll never be built. But I think that from the time that I started learning about Magic to, I guess we're talking about current, I think the power level has like been like a little spike. It's like whoop, whoop. And then it's like whenever Wizards, post a busted card, they're like, wait a minute, we gotta print some garbage now. We gotta even the playing field. Let's print some cards that don't do anything. So I've seen that wave kind of come and go over the years, and that's been pretty hilarious. And there will always be players that will break something out. Like I'm actively always trying to break a card and be like, oh, that seems like a busted ability. I think I can break this open, make it an infinite combo, or make it do stuff that people won't like, because that'll be hilarious.
Now,
at least for my play group.
Yeah, so you come from a martial arts background, as I understand it, and I know that there was a part where you kind of had to, de-spikeify yourself. You had to take things a little less seriously. Can you tell me about sort of how that worked for you and how you've seen that happen to others? Because Commander's just kind of taken over at this point.
Yeah. So actually, going all the way back, I actually started doing competitive play in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and different fighting games. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was just like, you have an opponent, you have an objective, and if you don't achieve that goal, if you don't pick if you're playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2, if you're not picking Magneto, Storm, Sentinel, then you're just going to lose if somebody picks that combo. And so for me, it was more like, okay, cool. These are the things, these are the cards that I need to play to win. This is the play group that I play with. And I think the first play group that I really sat down and played with, I'd say on average, they'd win on turn 2. On average. And so that's kind of the playground that I was thrusted into. I was born into the fire that I was thrusted into. And that kind of made me go, okay, that's just how it is. So I guess over the years of being oh, I need to pull back, because random pods would be like, you're just going to do that thing that's really oppressive, or you're going to play that card that's locking everyone out the game so that you can progress your board. And I'm like, that's the only way I can beat them, is by doing stuff like that. And then I realized oh, this is casual. Oh, people are coming in with pre-con decks and things that are out of the box. And I'm like, oh yeah, that tap land, that's going to stay tapped. You should probably not play that. So yeah, just learning, I guess when the introduction of Rule Zero really, really helped out, because it allowed people to have that conversation beforehand. Hey, well, my deck does X, Y, and Z, and you can look through it, and here's the spreadsheet. I'm very open-minded to that. Hey, look at my deck. Here's the deck list. I don't care. Take it apart. Feel free to look through it. And that allowed more transparency and allowed more fun, because if people were you know what? Yeah, I got a deck that could match up against that. Or yeah, I don't really want to play that. Let me go to a different table, or let me go to a different pod, or let me go to, a different play group. And we'd all just end up playing, whatever we showed up for. So I don't know if I actually answered the question.
Do you have a power level that you prefer? If you could only play one power level forever now.
Every deck's a 7. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, Michael Sinclair. he I thought that was a funny joke, and he just was like, "Oh, really? Every deck is a 7." If I had to play a specific power level all the time, I'd probably say turn 4, turn 5 win.
Mhm.
That would probably be like my general like go-to, because then I could expect to put the things in my deck, mulligan very aggressively, try to keep a hand that's like gonna get there. And then if we win by then, great. Then we can, if someone wins, we can shuffle up and play another game. Let's try to see who gets there. But I do enjoy longer games. I have some games that are more grindy, or some decks that are a little more grindy. But if I had to pick one to play forever, I'd say a little bit like not CEDH, but like a couple notches below it.
Okay. Interesting.
How do you feel?
I'm still new to it, so I have trouble knowing what levels decks are. So it's always interesting to hear other people's opinion on the different levels and why they like them, because I'm kind of new to it. So like someone's like, "Oh, what power level is your deck?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And they're like, "What turn can it win on?" I was like, "I've only played once and I didn't win." Like, I don't know. So it is very cool to hear people who are a lot more experienced in EDH to like give their opinion on those different formats.
Now, we've had a couple folks on the show, primarily Zbex, I think, who are TikTok creators. And TikTok is kind of the new frontier of social media and content creation. And as a content creator these days, it seems more important to have a wider breadth of outlets and not focus primarily on one outlet. But I certainly first became aware of you through TikTok. And it seems like TikTok is one of, if not the best for discoverability, perhaps not monetization. Talk to me about your evolution in content creation, because it seems like you roll with the punches really well and can find the trends of where you need to be at the right times to be able to catch that wave.
Yeah. And also, I didn't mean to skip over your question earlier, Evan, about the martial arts thing. That's kind of tied in to each other. But yeah, martial arts background, judo, jiu-jitsu, Roman Greco wrestling. My dad was a wrestling coach for years and years and years and years and years. Then he introduced me to a samurai, like legit, who like trained me with like katana for 3 years. And I didn't touch a katana for the first 2 years, which was crazy. It was very much like a Mr. Miyagi kind of like Karate Kid situation, where like I walked in the door and it was like, "Get out." And I was like, "I don't know what I did wrong, but I guess I gotta get out." And I did that for like 2 weeks, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not taking off my shoes. I'm disrespecting him. Let me do some research." So that's kind of where that discipline came from, and that's very laser beam focused. But to get to your question. Sorry, I'm like all over the place.
You're good. It's all good.
I'd say TikTok for me was like, hey, there's a new thing coming out. And I used to love being on Vine, but I didn't jump on the wave when it was a thing until when Vine was like leaving. And so I was like, man, I really wish I would have got on that, because I had a bunch of friends who like made so much money off of Vine, and like they're like killing it right now. And I'm like, man, I gotta like get ahead of it this time. And I still didn't really dive into it until like I found something that I could say, you know what, there's a niche, there's a hole that I could fill. And I hope that didn't come off weird. There's a niche that I feel like there's a space to fill that I feel like that's not being utilized. There's no like, there ain't nobody from the hood making magic TikTok. So I was like, okay, cool. I can provide my own like scope into how I believe me and my homies play the game and like what we go through. And so I just figured, yeah, I'll throw a few together. That'll be kind of funny. It wasn't really to like advertise or utilize anything. It was just like, I'm kind of bored and I want to get on this thing and make sketches. And especially during the pandemic, we was like, all right, I'm getting up sketches like why not? Because I love writing sketches. I love I had a sketch comedy group for a while. Those Darn Geese, if you ever look it up, they're still on YouTube, but we haven't met up in years. But yeah, I still have like a lot of sketches that have went unused, and so I was like, I want to convert some of these to like a nerdy habit. So I converted a lot of them to like magic stuff, or like I saw some trends coming in, and I was like, I could turn that into like a magic thing, or a D&D thing, or a blurry thing. I'm actually writing a series right now, like a scripted series based on kind of some of the sketches that we have done, and turn it into kind of like a community type series. So yeah, long-winded answer to that.
Do you have a favorite type of content to make, regardless of like money or income or anything like that? What is the thing you enjoy producing the most?
Something that is sketch heavy, involving multiple people. Like that would be ideal for me, to like show up every day on set and film a sketch or two about whatever it is. Like that would, I could do that forever and ever and ever.
Is it the fun of making it, or do you enjoy creating the sketches? It can be both, but like what about it is so appealing?
I think for me, it's fulfilling as an actor, and as, just someone who I just enjoy comedy a lot. And I really look up to, I guess my comedy influences would be, like Eddie Murphy when he came out, George Carlin, Jim Carrey, Chris Rock, just a lot of the people, like the whole cast of SNL forever, Mad TV, like stuff that I like grew up on as a kid. Like, oh yeah, like originally I was like, I want to move to LA. I was a little kid, and I was like, I want to move to LA so I can be on Mad TV. Mom was like, okay, you keep hope alive. And then Mad TV got canceled, and I was like, damn it. Yeah, I think the thrill of just making something funny with your friends that people can laugh at, and if nothing else, you can laugh at and go, remember that time we did that sketch about that thing? That was so funny. We should do another one. Like we did a sketch that we put out every year about this black leprechaun that's haunting this guy after, I know I'm gonna keep it PG because PG-13 because it's very R. But he had a night of drinking, and he got something stuck inside of him the night before because he was messing around, and it was the pot of gold, and the black leprechaun wants his gold back, and he'll stop at nothing to get it back. And he's just chasing him around the apartment, and I think it's hilarious. And I'm just like chasing my buddy around with this knife, and it's wild. But yeah, we were like, we should just redo a sketch like that every year, but just like getting together with your friends and just goofing around. Like that's like ultimately, like, I don't know if you guys seen the movie This Is the End, but like that's the kind of movie I want to end up doing after so many of these things that we do together, that everyone like kind of knows where we're going with this, and we're all coming together now to do our own thing. Like that would be like the end game for me. That would be like my cinematic universe of putting all that together.
So I think that there's, you kind of note, I think there's a power in familiarity. And I mean, obviously we do a podcast, we get that. And, so how does it feel to kind of work with people who you've not sort of hung out with or played with? How to, do you have any sort of tips on how to, make people more comfortable, or how you get yourself more comfortable with other people?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I love Rule Zero. I think that's a definite thing. I think when people are, and I've had this happen a couple of times where people were just like, well, I don't want to talk about my deck. It kind of automatically makes me go, well, red flag. Like, we're all here to have fun. Like, why don't you want to like converse and like talk about the thing and like be, I guess on a social aspect, why don't you want to be more social? Because for me, it's like, that's like 90% of it. It's like, we can like banter and play all these horrible cards towards one another and laugh at each other. But if it's a stranger and I have these decks and I do that, and someone, goes, oh, well, we don't play that in my play group because that, is a feel bad card. Okay, I'll know that ahead of time because I'll have that conversation. But say, for instance, someone doesn't want to do that, and then someone else is sitting there and they're like, oh, you play one of those cards that makes them feel bad. then it gets out of whack. And then I'm like, well, the 90% of me that wanted to be here no longer wants to be here anymore because now it got real awkward. So bye.
It's something that the Magic community got to late because Magic is not a game you play to make friends. It's a game you play to feel something. But Commander is a format that you play to make friends and have experiences. I would rather have my deck do the thing that it does and then lose immediately rather than win by accident in Commander. And so I think it's harder for Magic players to really come by that honestly. And the Rule Zero conversation and the conversation around the conversation is something that Magic players aren't as used to, but I'm very familiar with, and this is my flawless segue, because I talk a lot during Session Zero, during role-playing game campaigns, which is also about getting on the same level, right? What kind of experience do we want? What kind of game do we want to play? What are the safety tools we need to have in place? And I know that you do some amount of role-playing shows on your channel. Talk to me a little bit about your background with RPGs and D&D and stuff like that. Very new.
I think I played my first D&D game, I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago. And it was all virtual. We played a D&D session, and then I played a Call of Cthulhu session. Did not have a Rule Zero or Session Zero because I knew all the people. But I think I had my first Session Zero, which was amazing to me that, like you said, it took all those things that could be offensive, that could be triggering, that could be, having someone go through PTSD and we're like, oh, I just said this elf was this, but that could have triggered something in someone's past so like you kind of get on, like you said, get on the same page and you're like, all right, cool. This is the experience I want to have. Personally, I don't like, if someone was like, hey, let's throw a slave in that game. I'm like, I don't care what that looks like. That's still triggering for me. So like, I would probably rule that out and everyone else can be fine with it. But it's like, yeah, let's keep that out of that for me. So it's good to have that conversation going forward. So that you're in good hands, you trust everyone around you. That trust circle has to be so tight of a thing to put together. And so when we put together a couple groups for some D&D sessions that I felt were amazing. I had so much fun, and it got me wanting, because the first time, a couple times I played D&D, I was like, okay, cool. I have to play like the best version of this person to like heal the team or do this, or I was playing very like Final Fantasy. Like, this is my role and I have to do just this. What does the party need? And we're like, you can be whatever you want to be, dude. We'll figure it out. And then once that opened up for me, I was like, oh, I can do anything. And so I'm like building like this like Tony Stark armor and for this wizard and like just doing all this like cool stuff. And the DM is like rolling with it. And I was like, okay, this is a blast. I gotta put some of this on, on the channel, because I definitely want to get back to it, even though I kind of strayed away from it. But I definitely want to get back to doing more TTRPG stuff. I want to play Vampire the Masquerade. I want to be Blade. I think it'd be cool to be a Blade character. And they were like, yeah, you can be Blade in Vampire the Masquerade. I'm like, let's do it. And yeah, like there's like what, 12? Is it 12 candles, 16 candles? How many candles?
10 candles.
10 candles. I knew it was a number. Candles.
16 candles is something else. But 10 candles. Yep. 10 candles is a horror RPG.
Yes.
That is kind of difficult to stream, I would think, but I've seen a couple folks do it because the whole point of 10 candles is you play it in the dark. I'm telling this to Evan and Nerd Girl just in case they don't know.
I had no idea.
I did not know.
So the game 10 candles, you light 10 candles around the table, and when certain plot things happen, you snuff out a candle.
Oh my God.
And then by the end of the game, you're all probably dead. It's a horror game, and it's very fun.
Huh.
I want to play that so bad.
Yeah.
Can you win?
No. Not 10. You can't win. Let me rephrase. You can't survive 10 candles. You can win 10 candles. You can't survive 10 candles.
How do you win if you don't survive?
You tell a good story with your friends. That's how you win.
I see.
Boom.
It's the
10 candles is very good.
Stories made along the way.
Highly recommend.
Okay.
We'll play 10 candles sometime.
So
I'll bring some tea candles to a con, and we'll play some 10 candles.
Please let me know. I'm so down.
Yeah, it's a fun one. So we've talked about a lot of IPs in our discussion here. You're perhaps the most like I'm a Magic content creator. I know Magic and I know D&D. That's like kind of it. You have so many more other fandoms. How did you you just started collecting every fandom? How did that happen? Why are you a collector of fandoms? How did you get started in nerddom, I suppose? And other than the sweatshirt and the username Black Nito, is there one perhaps other than X-Men that is your favorite?
Well, I'm an only child, so I had a lot of time on my hands when I was a kid. Also, single mom growing up, but then dad came back in later, but whatever, da da da. But she was always on the go. So I would have to figure it out, how to not be bored. And so I just started just absorbing everything, like from anime to, Marvel stuff, DC stuff. I mean, later on, I started to get more into different IPs. Like I'm like reading like Gideon Falls right now. This is a great horror, I guess horror graphic novel. Got into graphic novels, reading those. I don't know, like Star Wars. I mean, it's just there's so many different things that I gravitated towards. And I'm gonna be real. Growing up in the hood, they don't have that to be accessed a lot. So you had to really go in deep into the trenches to find anything. And so when I found little pockets of nerdom, I would cling to them and buy it all up and absorb it and then move on to the next. And I really didn't have anybody to talk to about it until I got to college, because I was always afraid to let that nerd flag fly. Especially when I was dating, that was just not a thing. I would hide all my stuff in the closet, put it all away. And then finally when I got to a point where I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna let it fly. But I think my favorite fandom, that's hard.
No
Give
pressure.
me a genre. Like action, comedy, horror, I have different ones.
Well, let's do horror actually, because we were talking a little bit before the show about how you and Evan are big horror fans. I mean, Nerd Girl and I are. You guys can watch those horror movies. Yeah, I'm not. We're cool here.
I've seen all the Saws. It's fine.
Yeah. I like writing horror. I don't want to watch horror.
Interesting. Okay.
I get scared.
Is it like the gore? Is it like the anxiety? Is it
for me? It's the anxiety. For me,
okay.
I don't even like watching The Office, which is an anxiety-inducing show for me. Anything that triggers that anxiety in me, I don't want to watch. And most horror movies are written from that perspective rather than performative. There's some horror genres I like. I like monster movies. I like self-aware stuff, but I don't like traditional horror.
Gotcha.
When I was younger, I used to just get scared at night. I'd watch something and be fine. And then at night it would stick in my head and I would get scared. So I wrote them off at a very young age.
Goodness.
I'd say my favorite horror IP has to be Resident Evil. Just from beginning to end, that story has been so compelling to me. And then with the the remakes of games 2 and 3 that came out, I think 2018, 2019, blew my mind. I was like, yo, I could play these forever. They'll never get old. I know a lot of people were like, oh, where's the clock tower in Resident Evil 3? I'm like, that's fine. This game is fine. This is amazing. And they're remaking 4. It's coming out, I think it comes out in March. So I'm gonna like replay them all again, like every single one, and then get up to 4 and then replay that. So, but yeah, favorite horror IP is definitely Resident Evil. With,
well, let's do.
I guess.
I feel bad that you had that Netflix series that came out that they called Resident Evil.
I liked it.
Did you really?
I liked it.
Oh, that's cool. I never saw it.
Everyone's talking so much smack. Yeah. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. Huh. Like most of the things that people don't like, I just say, oh, you know what? If I like that franchise, I just take it in. Mm-hmm. Like it's fine. Like I didn't love the Mila Jovovich Resident Evil movies, but I saw them all because I was like, whatever. I still like this IP. Mm-hmm. It got to a point where it stopped being Resident Evil and started being just an action movie, which I was like, yeah, that's fine. And if they would have called it anything else, I think it would still been just fine. But yeah, I've watched every single CGI Resident Evil movie. I've watched all the series. I've watched the new animated series. I like it all. I'm just a fan.
Nice.
So you did favorite horror IP. Let's do hero and like game. Like I know Resident Evil is also a game, but let's like go with either video games, card games, Magic, whatever. So do those two as well. I'd be interested if is X-Men the favorite hero?
I'd say, like specific hero or just like hero like franchise?
Hero franchise. Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say this doesn't even sound like a hero franchise, but I always bring it up. I think Death Note is such a cool
I'll take it.
Turn of events that you see this hero, he thinks he's doing something right, and then it ends up turning into something completely different. And then the hero switches from light into L, and then you see L try to be the hero and still fall, and you see this hero fall from grace. So it's like, don't be the hero. Like you only be the hero until you become the villain, which I thought was such a compelling like arc for Light. So yeah, I really love Death Note as far as like that arc goes, like from beginning to end. And then game wise, man, I think, well, if it's not like a card game, it's like a video game. Like video game wise, I'd say like, man, I think like just any fighting game. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with fighting games like Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Guilty Gear, Melty Blood.
Melty Blood? I've never even heard of that one.
What the heck is that?
That's a deep cut, man. That's a deep
cut. Yeah. They revamped it though. It came out with another one. I actually went to Evo last year. Oh, nice. So I was like, I'd never been. And I was like, I'm gonna get stomped. And I went for Tekken and I didn't practice and I got in the first round and I was like, I totally should have practiced because I totally can like, I was like, it's like, in your mind when you're like, I am missing up like little stuff that I'm like, I would have just been like, I'd have wiped the floor with the guy. And I was like, all right, it's fine. Get into the second round, blow right past the guy. I was like, I should have practiced.
Now we did touch a little bit on other card games. Have you tried Yu-Gi-Oh or Flesh and Blood or anything otherwise?
I tried Flesh and Blood. I dig Flesh and Blood. I haven't tried Yu-Gi-Oh, haven't tried Pokemon. What other card games? Ooh, I really like Dice Throne. Is that considered a card game?
I don't know that one. Yeah, Dice Throne?
I've not really heard of it. It's more of a...
So there's a Marvel version of Dice Throne. And what you do is you get 4 cards at the beginning, you flip them over, and you get to assign those abilities to whatever hero you have. And you're basically playing, like you're doing like a 1v1 situation or a 2v2 situation or a 3v1, whatever you want to, when you want to do. But you start at 50 points of life. And it's essentially just like Magic, but you have to draw a card each turn, you get points to spend, and you get to like roll for your abilities. So it's like my friend introduced it to me over the weekend. I was like, I only want to play this game now. It's so fun.
Nice. So just so we can get this in the show, because I forgot to say it earlier, we wanted to bring up outside assistance. This is where we've chosen a question from the comments on our last Plus One show, and the person who got picked gets $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com. And from our friend Komodo Drake, they said, after seeing the last few guests, I was inspired to ask a question that should be mandatory for any internet celebrity. What is your go-to dance move at the club?
Oh, with someone or by myself.
Up to you, man.
Whichever way you want.
Dealer's choice.
I am a big fan of the spin and the dip.
Oh, okay. Classic.
I really love the tango. I love the merengue. I love the do a little jazz. I can y'all see me on the dance floor. I get down. I ain't gonna lie about that. Like
you're in LA. Have you been to the Cicada Club?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, we will get dressed up like, and we actually filmed. Becca and I filmed that.
Oh, that's right. You filmed the New Capenna thing.
Capenna
Cicada Club.
down
That's
there.
right.
Yeah. So like, yeah, it goes down. I ain't shy when it comes to the dance floor.
Nice.
Very nice. Well, thank you to Komodo Drake for being a part of the show. Get your prize by hitting us up on Twitter DMs at Magic Mike's Cast and get your questions in for next week's guest. And maybe you can be part of our +1+1 show. But for now, I think we need to turn the corner here to the fundamental turn. And again, this is a few fast-paced questions. Just, whatever comes off the top of your head is generally best. And we'll just burn them through as we get to them here. So, all right. What is your favorite thing about Magic?
The Gathering?
Yeah. That works.
Yeah.
Old border or new border?
Old.
Favorite set?
Mirrodin.
Favorite mechanic?
Annihilator.
Favorite deck?
Samut.
Card you wish you never got rid of?
Ooh. Lion's Eye Diamond.
Best advice you repeat?
Read the card. It explains the card.
What do people get wrong about you?
That I'm so competitive that I cannot be approached.
What do people get right about you?
That I am super fun to hang out with.
What makes you happy?
People.
Failure means?
Learning about how to succeed later.
And success means?
Trying harder to fail.
There you go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, ends another edition of our fundamental turn and an episode of Magic Mike's +1+1. And finally, Mr. Joe, where can people find you on the internet?
Awesome. You can find me at @BlackNito_ on pretty much every social media platform that's out there except for Facebook. I'm not on Facebook just because I'm not. And you can find me on YouTube at Tabletop Jocks.
Very nice. All right. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic and otherwise. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys. See you next week.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. Great to see you as always.
And thank you, Joseph Johnson.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffing.com, our co-sponsor, Alter Sleeves, my co-host, MTG Nerd Girl and Ruben Bressler, our special guest, Joseph Johnson, you guys for watching and listening, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter at Magic Mikes Cast, our Magic Mikes subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Or join us here next time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mike's +1+1. Good night, everybody.